Alright, here we go. We're live. So we played a map last night, and I'm going to generate it on stream. It's a great map, cool concept by a friend of mine called BP. He should be coming around the stream sometime today soon. So make sure you say hi to him and tell him how cool you think this map looks. We played this in some 4v4s yesterday. And let's see. Fossil was the name of the map. So folks had some feedback. We're going to see if we can use our tools to improve on what is done here. It only works for 8 players right now. So we have to select 8 players and hit generate. Oh, this reminds me, I still have the cubes mod on. Look at that. Come on. Number of players 8. And generating on an 8-player map size. Where's everybody? Well, anyway, the players start up here. They're kind of away from the ribs of the fossil, and then there's a lot of meat between the ribs, which makes sense. It's like any carcass, I suppose. But that was the inspiration for this. Was the rib cage of some prehistoric animal. So a lot of the lands were generated using the Madlands utility. So we're going to go in and see if we can improve on this and add perhaps some variety. Maybe we could vary the number of ribs or the size of the ribs, as well as find a way to fit the players in between them. So this is something that we are going to pay attention to. So if we go in and we look at the actual script file, see if I've got it somewhere. Where is it? We had it under reviews, I think. And we take a look at fossil. Holy crap, I'm dropping so many frames. That's not good at all. Looks like my data consumption is not unreasonable, so I'm not really sure what's going on. I'm dropping a little over 50% of my frames. Well, hopefully since it's a scripting stream, nobody cares too much. So anyway, we got our player set up as a direct placement, and then a bunch of create land commands that are associated with, well, all the different ribs. So he's got the spine here, which is just the straight line across the map. He's got rib 1, rib 2, etc., etc., etc. So once all of those create lands are finished, looks like he creates a couple of forests in the corners. And then he's got some % chance of where the players are assigned. One team could be assigned the top or the bottom. And then he just does the rest kind of standard like a map. It looks like he elevates the gravel, which is the terrain that's being placed for these ribs. It's gravel, and then he masks the broken road terrain on top of it, which I think looks good as well. There's terrains and then some objects here. So we're going to see what we can do with this. If we can improve on this design. So to that end, I have copied over the folder and I've named it Fossil TC Style. And so let's get right into it then. Our fossil is going to be programmed by GNU Octave. I'm just thinking now, probably the most important thing, the biggest reason that anybody could want to work on this is to improve the start of the players. So I like the number of ribs here. I'm just thinking we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So let me see if I can kind of sketch on the whiteboard what I'm thinking here for the player starts. And you guys can let me know what you think about that. So we'll bring up the whiteboard. Because we need a configuration for 4v4, and we need a configuration for 3v3, and we need a configuration for 2v2 and 1v1. Alright, so whenever you're ready, whiteboard. I'll launch it. I'll grab my pen here. Dust off the glove. My two-fingered glove. Okay. Okay, pen's working. Whiteboard is not working. One sec. Alright, well, we could launch. Wait, here it is. Alright, here we go. So we'll get into this whiteboard. So we've got 6 ribs, and that in turn puts 5 spaces in between the ribs. So let me see if I can draw this here. But we don't have a gazillion copies of whiteboard because we were trying to open it earlier. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ribs. So the plan for a 4v4 is you've got your backbone. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pardon my crude sketch here. Actually, think I can do a little bit better than that, though. Hey, Jaws here. So for a 4v4, we're going to mark the player starting positions in red. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you guys think about that? I think that's the fairest that we can get a 4v4. 8 players. And we kind of got this open space here, which is not great. But what are you going to do, right? How are you going to get rid of it? You might, you might be able to have a player from either team here. And that could be interesting, actually. I'm just trying to think of how I could do this. So we'll designate this as like one option. So here's one option is to do that. Another option, I wish I had more colors for the pen. But I think I have to, whatever. It's probably somewhere. The whiteboard is very simple and it's very easy to use, but it's also, alright, so the first option, second option. So how are you doing today, Ja? Okay. So we'll use this other rainbow one. Oh, that's so bad. We really need to, there we go. we got the galaxy coloring. Let's just do red and blue. So we'll clear that up. Okay, blue here, blue here, blue here, and blue here. So red is the enemy team and blue is your team. So that's one possibility. Another possibility, zoom out, that we could help him out with is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on fossil. Oh man. I'm actually wondering, can we copy this? Not exactly. Let's try this again. All right, and then we will Control C, and we'll Control V it, and then we will. Ooh, yes, yes, please. All right. So another possibility is that we can actually. Oh no, not that. Eraser. Here we go. So we can actually put reds like this and blue like this. So Josh says, my internet is dead again. I have to watch it on 140p. I'm sorry to hear that. My internet is actually really struggling as well. I'm not sure what it is. Can barely stream this. I'm dropping 65% of my frames. But it's just a scripting stream, so it doesn't matter so much. Okay, so this is another possibility. The players are, again, the teams are separated by a gap here, and you actually have deep pockets in this case. Whereas in this configuration, everybody is flank. So this would probably be a lot more aggressive than this configuration. It's really hot here today. Oh yeah? How hot is it in the Czech Republic? Okay. And I slept 12 hours. That sounds like a long time. There is another possibility. What about something like this? That could be a lot of fun. And then finally, we could do something like this. So it's similar to number 1 here, but scrunched together, if you will, so that this gap doesn't exist. So what do you guys think about that? Really would like you send BP a quick message. Okay, so while we're waiting to decide exactly what to do with the player starting locations, let's go in and see if we can get the neutral lands to create this rib shape. 24C now, which is quite nice, but it was much worse. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything to me. I'd have to convert 24C over to Fahrenheit. One sec. Oh yeah, that's fine. 24C is 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. So let us come over to our script file. I think the first thing we need to do is clear out whatever's left over in here from Flautagano, which is the file that I copied it from. Okay. And what are we really going to keep here? There's a lot of terrain stuff that we don't need. So we'll get rid of this. You like 3 or 4? Two and 2 outside and 4 inside. 2 is also nice. Just get rid of a lot of this stuff. Who knows? We'll probably go and grab this later, but I just need to get it out of the way. Here we go. We'll get rid of this. He probably doesn't want to change the trade cards and cogs, so we'll get rid of this too. Yo, BP! He's in the assembly hall. All right, BP, I'll try it. There might be a little bit of a delay between what you see on the screen and what I say, but I'll give it a try. Got my headphones plugged in. All right, we'll give it a try. Hey, BP, can you hear me?
I can.
All right, excellent. All right, chat, let us know if you can't hear BP. He's the map designer. We're just going to go in and see if we can help him out with some things on the map. I will share my screen to you, BP. It should not have the same delay that YouTube does, unless it is demanding on my resources, which in that case I will have to stop, and you will have to rely on the YouTube stream, which has a
All right.
little bit of a delay. Okay, I am going to choose. I'm going to choose 15 frames per second here. And let's see if I start dropping frames quickly. Doesn't look like it so far. Okay. So just going out and clearing out some extra things from another script that I
All
did.
right. I was messing with the forests earlier because if we want to try to spread players out / move them in, then we might not really need, or the flanks might not like that they have to walk so far for the north and south forests. So we should just make the whole thing random forests. was a thought, and I changed them to acacia instead of baobab, so they can be a little thicker but still have that like safari theme, a little denser.
Now, do you have lots of animal skeletons on your map? I just thought about that. I kind of forgot to mention it the
I
other
do.
day. Okay, very good. That's very thematically appropriate then. I'm glad I'm not. I'm sure. I doubted that I would be the first person to think of it. Let's get rid of all these objects. Wow, this is a lot of objects.
Yeah,
Okay.
rocks, vultures, and skeletons.
Okay. And then we'll get rid of this. Okay, there we go. And then we will take everything that's land auto scribe above, cut it, Control A, delete, and we will paste it in. Okay, perfect. So, BP, we just had the whiteboard up here, and we're looking at potential configurations. So, actually, hold on a sec. I don't know if you can see that. Let me
I
stop.
saw it on YouTube.
Okay, well, let me share my screen instead. Which one do you like? Or do you like do you want all of them to be a possibility?
See. Yeah, those are pretty interesting. Um, Number one would probably keep with the same theme. I'd probably say that, and because of the arcing of the ribs in one direction, if you did number two, then technically team one and team two don't have like equivalent land space and resources. So we
Hmm.
could do. I think one looks best to me.
All right. We'll start it out with one. Okay, so we got this all cleared up. So now we have the GNU Octave program.
The second game or I guess technically third, I don't know. Full game they played last night pretty much played out how I expected it to. Um, I never really have any complaints. I know Purge kept mumbling about the wood line. He didn't like being a flank and having to walk back to the wood line, but I mean otherwise it didn't really play out in an unexpected way. They did both teams walled up and boomed until they ran out of resources instead of expanding early like I would suggest to do, but people are going to play it differently.
Yeah, it seemed like a very FC friendly map because of how far apart the teams were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, okay, I see. I have different potential configurations depending on the number of players. So that's what this is. P34, P56, and that's something that we should also talk about here. So, what do you do for? Oh, I should not have. I should not have deleted that. Should not have dismissed that. What do you do for a 3v3? Probably put the players by threes. in the middle, I would imagine. And then a 2v2, something like this, and then a 1v1 in the middle. So I think, I wish I could sketch it, but I accidentally, oh, there it is, okay. So, oh, that's cute, look at this. Did you see that?
Yeah.
It pastes in the script. No, that's not what we want, though.
Yeah, I think 3v3, having them just in the middle three ribs.
Okay.
2v2, maybe just the biggest ones.
So let me lasso this.
And you had an interesting idea. I know you said you thought they were going to be unbuildable. I guess if you think about it, if this was a real life Leviathan fossil, these things would be so high up in the air. Yes, you wouldn't be building on it, but I was just thinking about it. I think building on it's fine because I have the gold, stone, and relics on there anyways. You couldn't place a mining camp very close, and people are going to be walking, or like units are going to walk over it anyways. So I think we can just leave it as buildable.
So 3 players here and 3 players like this.
Yep.
And then for 2v2, 2v2 is basically just configured this way. And then a 1v1 would be just like this.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go with this for now. We're going to need, we're going to need different starting configurations. For different players. Each team in their own lung. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it, Ja. The left or the right lung. Okay. So, before we do too much with the different number of player adjusting. Okay. So we will, yeah. We'll just do the last one for now. Okay. See what that is. So let us get rid of this. Sorry, BP. There's a lot to get rid of that we don't need right now. We'll add the
No
complexity
problem.
back into it. Yeah, I'm just gonna just going to get rid of all this, actually. We'll get rid of all this. Stop initializing things. This k equals 1. P12. Okay, so we can start with P12 actually, but I will comment all of this out so it doesn't run that. Okay, and this is basically telling it to do different things if you've got different numbers of players. Manual land appendix and preface. Preface is extracted from the file when it's read. You do manual land appendix is equal to nothing. If you had your heart set on having these forests up in here, you might be able to do these with just borders.
Yeah, I don't think once we put players into closer together, we can just have the forest randomized. Like I have that up now. I've been messing around with it. We can get rid of the top and bottom thick forest if we want.
Where are all the skeletons, BP? Am I missing them? The animal skeletons. I also don't have
They're
players
around
on here, though. That's all right. Okay. So we have these commands for different sizes. So this is PLI1, PLI2, PLI3, PLI4. So those are the player land injection points. And for now, we're going to not make them at all. So we'll copy this over and we'll just paste it here. And we'll get rid of those. But we'll include those in the command later, because we're going to want to inject a series of lands for the players. And it will basically choose player lands from that. Otherwise, we are going to just do a parabola here. And we're going to have, what, 0.05 times x dot squared, something like that. And line thickness of 1, brush thickness of 1, I mean. Total thickness of 1, and we're going to have it bounded from -50 to 50. I think those are the only things that are required for now. We're not going to do it to the point where we're injecting a series of points and having it turn those points into land, so we can comment this out. Okay. So we should by default have P12. So let us just run this, and it's not going to look anything like the fossil, but we're just going to be running it as a sanity check to make sure that we haven't forgotten everything and that everything in the program is set up correctly. C must be a cell array, so line 47. 51 here. All right, so not quite. What's going on? Oh, to heck with it. Pull up something that we know works. Pull up isolated lakes and just copy over one of the land gens for that.
I was having issues, like when I do this script, I have the player teams, like at team position, obviously.
Yep.
Team 1, team 2, but when I'm in the script editor, the players don't show up, so I have to change it to -10 for everybody, and then the players show up. But as soon as I posted it to to Discord, I had to remember to change them back to Team 1 and Team 2.
Okay, yep. Yeah, that won't be a problem for us. Okay. So let's post that in right there. And this is just a good old-fashioned straight line. And this is the angle right here. We're going to make the angle 0. Straight line centered at 0, 0. And we're going to have it go from minus 50 to 50. Elevation 0. And we're going to give it a terrain type of DLC black or something. Just to make sure it's working properly. Okay. Oh, we have an extra bracket there. All right. Oh, we need right. We need to landscribe that. Okay. All right, good. It's thinking about it. It's doing it. Let me set the fan up 1 second in my room. It's getting hot in here. Jai isn't the only one that's experiencing a hot summer. Most of the summer was actually cool before I would say last week. It was actually quite pleasant.
It's been constant mugginess down here.
So it's all set. Let's see if we've generated a line of DLC black somewhere. So we're going to pick TC fossil and generate it and see what happens.
Alright.
Alright, there we go. So we got a straight line right across. Let's go back. And we'll say thank you to Isolated Lakes and close that. So we're going to want this to be rotated 45 degrees. We're probably not going to want DLC black. We're ultimately going to want gravel, which is we're going to define as V. And let's come in here, and we're going to use not a base terrain of BNN, because that doesn't make any sense. What was BP's base terrain? Let's take a look. It was...
Base terrain. DLC dry grass.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. And we're going to come up here at the top, and we're going to define constant V, and I believe gravel is number 70. And the reason we're doing that is because we're going to have a lot of these create land commands. And so actually if we make it V, it makes it shorter and it makes it load faster of all things. Alright. It's because we don't want... If we can save a little bit of space by replacing DLC black with a single character, then we will. So now let's go over to our overhead or our interface, and we'll run that. So I got a fan to blow the hot air out of my room. Okay, we're all run now. So we should have it rotated and we should have gravel. Nice. Now, of course, it does not span the entire length because we're now traveling the hypotenuse, which is equal to the square root of 2 times the leg length. So in order to get it to travel the whole thing, we need to take 50 and multiply it by, you can see we've got V's here. So I forgot about that. We need to take minus, and we need to multiply that by the square root of 2. All right, and we'll be well on our way here. So let us, before we declare that as a structure, let's come down here and let's say that that structure is equal to just the fossil itself. So our backbone is this section that we just did. Can you hear me, BP?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So our backbone is this section that we just did, and now we need to start doing the ribs. So we are going to have rib 1, and, oh, by the way, fossil is equal to backbone, and then rib 1, and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And once we get this going for the ribs, it should be quite fast. I don't know how long it took you to do it on Madlands. And the only reason I have to redo it now is because my program isn't smart enough to ignore whatever Madlands did in the player placement. So, similar thing, landscribe. Except we're going to have minus 45 degrees because we want these to be perpendicular. And we're going to start with minus 50 to minus 50, and we'll see how that goes. Actually, we'll go like minus 40 to minus 40 or something. And then this is going to be 0.05 times x dot squared. So it'll be parabolic in nature. And this one will be centered at 0, 0 for now. So let's try offsetting it by 10. Let's see what happens. All right, so it's done. Generate. Okay, so as you can see, we've got a pretty extreme rib right there. And I don't know how good the displacement for it is, if it's far enough. But we could probably make that rib a little bit less extreme, certainly. Get it to approximately where it needs to be. So maybe make this 0.01, and then maybe instead of an offset of 10, we'll have an offset of 5. And once we're reasonably confident in where this rib is being placed, we will repeat the pattern for more ribs.
All right.
What do you think, BP?
I think I'm pretty far behind on the YouTube.
Oh, the YouTube channel is... I only dropped 65% of the frames so far. But it is struggling. Are you catching it through the stream? Oh, wait a second, I'm not streaming. I stopped sharing my screen for whatever reason.
Yeah, that happened a while back, I think.
Oh, sorry about that.
No problem. I didn't know if it was just taking your resources, so you did it on purpose or not.
No. I'll give that a try.
Let's see.
Probably still a little bit too extreme. Maybe.
I think.
What do you think?
For that being the biggest one, that's probably fine. If we're gonna do that,
we'll leave it there for now, and we'll see how many of these we can fit. Got all of our gravel terrain having been written in here. It's a little bit choppy in some places, but I mean, come on, what fossil hasn't been a little bit knackered by time, right?
Exactly.
If it's really that big of a deal, we can thicken that up there or something. All right, so let's try this then. We're gonna have ultimately 6 of these ribs, right? So we'll duplicate, 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 and duplicate. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now this order down here actually matters. So basically, when this processor, when it takes whatever this structure is, and sorts it. This structure is going to contain information about the backbone, because all that this landscribe function here is doing is it's going in, is it's saying, all right, what points satisfy these geometric conditions. And then it goes in and it says, all right, make a point at these locations of this terrain type at this elevation. So it has position X, Y, and Z with the terrain type, essentially. But the further left you are in this command line, the higher priority you have. So in other words, everything that has the same point between rib 1 and backbone, this program, because if I go through and I crunch the numbers, right, and I determine that there is some point out there at 50-50 that is part of rib 1, but backbone also has a point at 50-50, the program needs to know which one is the real one. Which one do I choose? So you to have those unique points, if you will. So if it's to the left, it'll choose whichever one comes first.
Gotcha.
3, rib 4, rib 5, and rib 6. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we were going to mess with these how? Well, let's see. Maybe like minus 25. No. Maybe like minus 15. Minus 10. Minus 5. That's still a pretty big gap in the middle, actually. So maybe we do like minus 12. Minus 8. Minus 4. 0. 4. And 8. So still not quite. But we can bump this up perhaps 2. So we have 10, minus 6, minus 2. There we go. Plus 2, plus 6, and plus 10. So we can try that out as our sort of our set of numbers, if you will, to evenly distribute these ribs. And then we'll hit go. So it's going through and it's thinking about them. Okay. All set. Let's see how we did here. These are all going to be the same length ribs, so we'll have to adjust that. So clearly the ribs are not spaced out enough from this. So this animal is not quite right. Well, maybe we could do this a little bit more mathematically. We could figure out that if we want the ribs to stretch from minus 50 to plus 50, then that's a 100 span, and if we've got 6 of them, then 100 divided by 6 is something like what? 16.6 or something like that. So, yeah. So, let's go minus 50. And then the next one is 16 plus that, so maybe like minus 34. We could actually find some number that actually, let's do 16 times 6 and see where we're at here. So 96, so 96 divided by 2 is going to be 48. So maybe we just do like minus 48 for nice numbers. And then minus 32. Okay. And then minus 16. Wait a second. What have I done? What have I done wrong here? I think I need to divide by the number of gaps in between them. Well, that'd be really easy because it'd just be 20. So maybe we do minus 50, minus 30, minus 10, and then positive 10, and then positive 30, and then positive 50. Is that what you used, BP? Surely you probably figured out all this math before.
I was using Madlands, and I just did found a spacing that worked well with rib 1, and then I kept pretty much a similar spacing between each one from then. I don't remember how much. It was like maybe 15 or 16 like you're doing.
All right, there we go. So I think the spacing is probably reasonable then. So let us, hold on a second. Oh, I see. This probably has something to do with the length. Let us decrease the length now for the ones that are sort of more extreme. So maybe this one will go minus 10 to plus 10. This one will go minus 15 or maybe minus 20 to plus 20. And this one is minus 30 to 30, just to see where we're at here. 30 to plus 30, and 20, 10, 10, 20. It should actually run faster too. Okay. All right, maybe a little bit longer. It's like we have space for everything, which is good. $15, $15, $25, $25, $35. All right. All right, what do you think about this, BP?
I think they could use a little more bone to them.
Up here, you mean? Okay.
The two left ones could be a little longer, I think.
Well, here's the thing. They're the same length as these. So these ones over here are the same length as these other ones. This is the same length as this.
I see what you're
This
saying,
one's the
yeah.
same length as this. The reason that
Same position.
they look shorter is because of the curvature. So this one is curved toward the edge of the map, so it looks like there's not as much. It looks longer, when in reality, if you drew a horizontal line across, it would
They're the
touch.
same, yeah. I see what you mean.
So let me try to buff up the length of some of these ribs then. We increased by 10. Let's try increasing by 12. So 15 and 27. And then let's increase this by 4. 39 and 39. All right, 39 and 39. 27 and 27. Okay. And we'll give it that adjustment. See how we do.
It's going, no?
What's that? Okay.
Let's see.
How's that?
That's the new generation? Yeah, yeah.
Does this look better? More along the lines of what you're looking for? We can also make it so that the curvature of the ribs is not as extreme, so that this difference is less pronounced. In fact, I think let me show that to you. You can tell me what you think.
Yeah, I think the fourth one too can be a little smaller. The way I had it, that was its own size. So there's like small, to put it in map perspective, I guess small, normal, medium, and large. And there's one medium and one large rib. If you see on my map icon, do you see which one I'm talking about?
Hang on, let me generate the original fossil.
Or you can see it on yours that you have the two large ones that are the same size. The one on the right should be a little smaller.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I see. Okay, 19 seconds. So this is the original fossil. I see what you mean. The one on the right was made to be slightly smaller than the one on the left. Such adjustment could absolutely be made here.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think that's what we got to do. I think the curvature is correct, but the lengths of these need to be decreased to compensate for the fact that they're curved toward the edge of the map. All right, so we'll go back to 0.01. So maybe we'll decrease them by 5. Maybe not. Well, let's do it by 3. Actually, that's 6. Okay, 11 and 11, 12. Okay, so this one is with the ones that are on the right-hand side, I think, being adjusted, unless we just made it worse, which in that case we'll just flip these numbers here.
The curvature looks good. Did you change the fourth ribs size?
I'm working on it now.
Yeah, yeah. I think that looks good.
So these ribs over here are slightly shorter than these other ribs here. I might want to increase the length of this one. Well, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that would be fine. You can increase it slightly because
Okay.
the curves from your program are different than the ones I get from Madlands. So yeah, we can alter that a little bit.
31. Now, it doesn't, there is some overlap here. I'm assuming you created these at elevation 0 and then just elevated them in the elevation section.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Does it give you the option to create them at a different elevation and then elevate them? I suppose it wouldn't really matter too much.
Like having a base elevation.
Yep,
When you do that, does it not raise the grass around it as well?
it would, but you can clean up that with terrain effects. So
Yeah, true.
you could target terrain at a certain elevation and change it. When I was talking about unbuildable terrain, that's actually what I meant to suggest, was not that you make all of this unbuildable, but rather that you make simply the border of this unbuildable, so that somebody couldn't build a wall across the map. Somebody might want
Yeah,
to do that
okay.
anyway.
Like you.
Yep, that's right, like me.
Everybody will have their little egg base in between the ribs, their own organs.
Okay, so let's talk about team positioning now. I think is a good time to discuss that. So basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a line. Actually, I'm going to create two lines, really. Something up here and something down here. And I'm going to inject it into these player lands. And there will be a conditional that triggers that if a player is in the game, it will place them at the extreme points of those two lines that I created. So the best way to explain it is just to show you.
All right.
So we got these ribs. They're working the way that's intended, right? Now we're going to do like PLI, player land injection 1. And we actually kind of had something like this earlier. So I'm going to set that equal to just basically a line, because it doesn't need to be anything fancy. But for now, we'll do DLC black, so you can see it. And we'll put it up with fossil here, PLI 1, player land injection 1. And we're injecting the player lands into the list of lands that are being generated. So we're kind of doing it as an afterthought, if you will. Because I don't have it. I have the circular land placement, similar to Arabia. I think I've shown it to you before. But I since developed this one instead. So this is going to be 0 times x. And thickness is going to be 1. It's going to go from minus 15 to plus 15. That's fine. Except it's going to be centered around 0, 0. It's going to be DLC black. So what this is going to do is it's going to generate all of the fossil stuff related to the ribs and the backbones, and then it's going to add these lands to it. But because it's doing them as part of the neutral land generation, it's not going to create its own thing. Now, this is just going to show you, give you a visual of where that would be.
All right.
Oops, we did not suppress the output for that. Oh, shoot. We want PLI 1, player land injection 1. Okay, rerun it. Okay, it's done. So we should have a black line basically be drawn in the center of the map here. And there it is. So at these distances, players will be, when we go to inject this into the program, one player land will be located at the tip of this line, and one player land will be located at the other tip. So my question for you is, do you like this? Do you think it's appropriate spacing for the players? Something to this effect?
Yeah, I think that's as good a spacing as we could hope for. You might want to move it. I guess that you said that's at 50-50.
Yep, this is in the exact theoretical center of the map. Well,
Yeah, so if we move
right
it to the
there.
right very slightly, that might be get them in between the ribs, so they have like equal spacing, so to say, um, from left to right. Otherwise, I think from the players being apart, that looks like a good distance.
Okay. The other thing too is that we could give this curvature as well. Um, there's nothing preventing something like that. So, for example, oh, also, I just wanted to say you will. I'll say that later. So let's let's copy this function actually. And we should be able to paste this function directly in here. And then we'll hit run, and we should witness the curvature. This is at 0 offset, so it's directly between rib 3 and 4 here. So we'll pay attention and we'll do like a 20, and then we'll do 40 for another player. Okay, it's all set.
All right.
Better?
Yeah, that looks good. That should work fine. Yeah, having them spawn at the tips of those.
Now, the reason that nothing appears here is because it's being told to prioritize the needs of this gravel over the needs of the DLC black terrain. So therefore, it is essentially removing all DLC black that wants to spawn right here, so that the gravel can spawn properly. But we can actually clear this up even a little bit better, because we can, now that we know how the shape of this looks, we can restrict X and such that we only get these two tips here. So let's do that next. So for example, we could have this go from 14 to 15. That might be too little, but we'll give it a try. And we will have it go from -14 to -15 as well. So copy that. And we will give ourselves a little bit of space. So -14 to -15 and +14 to +15. So now it'll just spawn in that very narrow section that's either 14 or 15 away from the center line. So it's just fewer lands that it even has to deal with. And it should still work for our purposes, because it'll generate approximately the same number of lands out here that it generates over here. And that's how it picks where the player land would be. It's what it's set up to do.
Gotcha.
Oh, alright. So that's not enough. We need 13 to 15. It crashes. It doesn't like the one tile gap. It needs a little bit more to work with here. Still doesn't like it. Alright, maybe it needs 3. It was so long ago that I wrote this Landscribe program, so I don't even fully remember exactly how it works. That's why you write computer programs, so that you don't have to have a mind for that. Oh, come on. Okay, 4 points. Oh, it still doesn't. So I could try running this to make sure it's going to run first. Window of 5. Alright. If it doesn't have enough points, it'll simply fail. Okay, that looks good. Okay. Looks like we need about 6 points in order for it to work successfully. Nope. Give it 10. So in a 1v1, we'll do just this one. And then in a 2v2, we'll do one here and one over here. Now, I'm thinking we could put a different terrain type down for this land, perhaps. And then convert that terrain type and get player-assigned forests. But I don't know how much player forests you want in here. You mostly want meat between the ribs, right?
That was just to have like additional options, but at least for the games that we had, nobody really went for the hunt in the middle because they just walled up and stayed at home. But having players more in the middle, I think we could. Yeah, we can keep it with the hunt and obviously need dispersed forests. I'm fine with having those in between the ribs as well.
Alright, well, I don't know what's going on, but it just doesn't want to run if I restrict the range, which is very bizarre. And I'm not going to try to figure it out right now. So we'll just let it have minus 15 to plus 15. Because in the end, we're not going to even use this directly, technically. Let's go into the script file, though, and we will manually add a town center so that we can see what the effect of these player lands is. So we'll just do this here after the object's autoscribe. We'll have create object town center, and we'll do set place for every player and find closest. And that's all that we need. Alright. So now we're going to do PLI 2, and we need player land injection 3 for the, and then we need PLI 4. So note that this isn't actually going to have any information in it, because this setup applies to P1 too. So something that we might actually do is, so to avoid having to run this for every single possible configuration, because the rib cage is going to look the same regardless of how many players there are. So we may consider computing that before the players are injected into the lands, which we can absolutely do. Okay, so now let's uncomment this, and we'll get rid of this. And we'll be putting DLC black down only. Actually, we'll put. Yeah, we could put DLC black down. I don't think the town center will spawn properly because I don't think it can spawn on DLC black, but we could fix that. So now it's basically saying what are the most extreme points of this set right here, and put the players at either end of that. Because it has 4 of them, it's doing it 4 times, 2 for each player. Each time doing 2 players basically at once. Okay. Oh, of course, there's always an error. 69. Dimensions are 0, 0. This processor at line 48. 69. So what happened before? We had PLI declared for everything. And let me just bring up Flotagano again and see what I ended up figuring out for that. So over here, so in the case of P12, okay, we had to set up some kind of dummy generation that in turn never gets used. So we will copy this and we will paste it down here, and we'll have to find some place where nobody cares. So maybe like offset it by 50, where it's not going to interfere with anything. And angle 0. All right. We will give that DLC black as well. And that'll help us see it in case we didn't find an inconspicuous enough place for it. But it should be fine because these should only spawn if there are more than 2 players, which there won't be because this won't be selected unless there are 1 or 2 players. Okay, so let's see what happened there. So, as you can see, the town centers cannot be spawned on the DLC black, which is why they are just spawning off to the sides of it. We have the rest of this here. This should only be a 2-player matchup, so this should not spawn at all. Let's go back to 2 players and generate it. And okay, that's better.
What does it look like when you do tiny map?
Alright, let's take a look. We'll do tiny map, but first we're going to center these town centers. Create object, off grid, find closest, second object, town center, and we're going to have off grid be 647, so it's centered properly. All right. This is what it looks like. So the ribs are actually really close to your town center. This is how it looks though, BP.
Yeah, those players are pretty close then.
Yep. Now, I think we could actually maybe increase the length of this for just that player configuration. So, for instance, in this section of code, we know that there's only going to be 1 or 2 players because that's part of the conditional, if P12. So, we could actually increase this too, from like maybe minus 20 to plus 20. And yeah, we'll try running that and see how the spacing of that is adjusted. And there is other stuff here that's getting run, but it doesn't matter. It's not being added. How's that? A bit better?
Yeah, it looks better.
All right, let's see if I can outsmart it and get it to not have all this black here, because that does bother me. But we couldn't seem to restrict the range of this. I could maybe try increasing the thickness, and then we could go from plus 15 to 20, and then we could try doing this again. We can go minus 15 to minus 20. Oh, I know what's wrong. Of course. We need to 16. We need to put the smaller one here. Oh, I'm still sleeping. So the reason it wasn't working is because we were putting the smaller number here. We need to put it to the left. The lower number is always to the left. Now that should work, because these have a window of 4 and they work. Okay. So that means we don't need this to be thickened, which I don't want anyway. Okay. So that ran properly. All right, bam, there we go. So we got our islands of DLC black, if you will.
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. So we can program similar conditions in for more players. And we could maybe even do this random, too. Like, we could have it generate a couple of different possible configurations, but that could be quite advanced. I need to think about that a little bit more. But let's at least get something set up for now, started on, if you will. Now,
Yeah, we can just get something set up for having different player counts. We don't have to get too complicated with it today.
let us do something else then. This would be... So we got the DLC black here. I'm just trying to think if that is the best terrain to use, or if a less conspicuous terrain is more appropriate. But for now, let's go into terrain generation. And we're going to create terrain. And we're going to choose like DLC dry grass. And we're going to need some things. Let me bring up, maybe Fossil will have some code that I can copy from so I don't have to go to the book and rewrite everything. There we go. Let's copy over your information about elevation as well, too. Okay, so we'll keep that handy and we'll repurpose this. And elevation, we'll copy over what you did for that as well. Okay, so we'll create terrain DLC dry grass. And the base terrain is going to be DLC black. The land percent is going to be 100. Number of clumps is going to be 100 is fine. Space and other terrain types won't be specified, but we'll set avoid player start areas by like 4 or something. Just to try to make this clump of black a little bit more centered around the town center, because right now it's largely on this side. So let's see what happens. like that a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
This one is a little bit checkered here, but that's all right because the next thing that we're going to do is change all of the dry grass that's a certain distance away to something else, and then we'll change it back. It's a little bit complicated of a trick. I'll let you tinker with it, but I'll just kind of show it here. And so we're going to do create terrain from DLC dry grass, and we're just going to go like dirt, so you can see. Set avoid player start areas by 6, and then we'll generate that. Oh, hmm. Oh, maybe we're doing that going about that the wrong way. Let us also fix the elevation to B. So that should elevate properly now. Okay, that's better. Although something that you'll have to bear in mind is that it's not going to want to elevate too close to the player town center area, which I actually forgot about.
Yeah, I forget about that too. That can mess with it for sure.
However, we can specify the elevation for this if you wish. Let's actually try doing that, see if that helps out. So let's get rid of this terrain stuff for now. We'll comment it out. And we'll come back here to the code. And we will specify elevation 1. Actually, what elevation did you want it? I think it was 5 that you were elevating it to.
Let's see. Also 5, yep.
Unfortunately, there's no way to vary the elevation in this program yet, according to X. But if we were elevating it and we were like sweeping a shape, we could elevate it to different shapes, which is kind of cool. All right. Let's see how that did. Look at that.
That's a
Quite
pretty
the
map
whip.
right there.
Well, the town centers are kind of overpowered by this elevation.
Yeah, that side is buried.
Yep. So what do you want to do here? It's going to look different too at like if we did a large size. It's
Yeah,
the
as it
same
gets
number of
bigger,
tiles.
yeah.
There's more space in between. I mean, this actually looks pretty cool, I think, and practical. Hey, Doi Hung is here. Age of Empires 2 looks like sophisticated stuff. Yeah, we're just doing some map scripting with BP here, helping him out with a map, or making it more complicated. One of the two. So I think what I'm
Yeah,
going to do is change this terrain to DLC dry grass. Whatever the base terrain is. That's another thing we're going to do in the land generation. So we don't necessarily need to see it right now. So we're going to put Y there for DLC dry grass.
I think for now, when are you wanting to work on one of the space maps?
Next week.
Next week?
Probably Wednesday. Yep, the goal was to help you get set up with multiple player setup here.
All right. Yeah, that sounds good.
Because the space maps are going to be really fun too. They're actually going to be the most fun, I think. Oh right, I gotta update this. So this is going to be Y. But what is the number for DLC dry grass? I think it's like 105 or something. Let's see.
I can check. No. Let's see. 100.
100. All right. Well, you get a 100 on your memory test, or your ability to find the information test. Actually, being able to find the information is generally a more valuable skill than being able to remember, because you're not going to be able to know everything, so it's more important to be able to find the information.
Nowhere to look.
Yeah, so what do you want to do on this elevation thing? Do you want to just dial this back a little bit and then elevate it in other places? So for instance, we could do like elevation 2 or something here, and then elevate the gravel beyond that. So in everywhere except for where the town centers are close to, it'll be more elevated.
Yeah, that should be fun.
Okay.
I think we can try that.
So regenerate.
The elevation itself, I just had set to 5, so all the ribs, like I know they're not going to reach that size. I just wanted them every point on the fossil to reach its maximum height, and then at the intersections between the ribs and the spine, that probably could go up to 7 or higher. But I wanted that to stop at 5. So we don't need to have level 5 elevation ribs for every map size if we don't want.
All right. So 16 seconds and it's done. Gotta try. Well, obviously it's going to look the most reasonable here, and it does elevate the rib beyond this, as you can see. Let's try generating on tiny sides again, though, because that's really going to be the test. Well, there it is. Give the players a couple of... We could try it. I'm willing to try it. I don't know. What do you think, BP? Basically have a forward wood line, if you will, and a back wood line or two. Might even be able to put some stuff over here. I'm not 100% sure. But where do you want to go from here? You could actually try making it elevation 1, 2. But as you can see, this isn't elevated right here in the same way that this is. But it is cool though, because it looks like this
yeah, I like the way it looks.
Kind of the tallest portion of it.
Yeah, and I don't mind the gaps in it, honestly. From the no elevation, you could just say like that's a broken rib. I think we could try to go with that, but we're not. There's no way to. I'm trying to think.
We could elevate the players too, if you want.
No, players are fine. I'm just thinking that even if we masked over the elevated grass into gravel, that would just make the ribs look super thick.
Yep. That is also possible.
Are we able to make that a little smaller, like a smaller base size for where that elevated grass is?
Right here. Basically get this to be a little skinnier.
Yeah.
Let's see. No, unfortunately the brush size is a minimum already. It's a minimum of 1.
Let me see what it looks like in the normal generation. I'm pulling it up on. I have it open on my game.
Well, I think the reason it's doing this too is because it's like stretching the base terrain upward.
Yeah.
because it's being elevated. Being elevated is inherently what makes it look thicker.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, and it's having the base elevation is stretching it.
So,
Um,
you know what we might be able to do too is maybe we can I don't know. I was just thinking maybe we could have the lands that are being placed basically be the dry grass and leave the gravel as the base terrain. But that wouldn't solve the elevation problem of like player town centers being too close to them, you know?
yeah, I see what
Because
you're
that's
saying.
because that's really what's causing this problem, right? The elevation doesn't like to spawn near player town centers unless you explicitly tell it to spawn there.
Yeah, I've had that trouble with one of the first maps I was working on. I think I could
Oh,
mess with this, like just doing direct placement probably. The thing is, I would like with the just the basic code I have, I would just have a bunch of if else for map sizes, and I would have to change the base size of the ribs for each one. Like that's not too difficult. Just copy paste and switch the number. But
just
I could
added.
do a bunch of direct placement to have the players in the locations that we talked about.
I mean, that's what this is doing though, BP. This is already doing that. It's just automated. It's
Yeah,
just something that I did in 10 minutes as opposed to you taking 3 hours to do it.
yeah,
I
that's
have an
true.
idea. I have an idea. What if, when we specified these ribs, we increased the thickness, but we put down dry grass at the ends of it that was at elevation 0? Let's try this. I have an idea. So right now, this is how the ribs are being generated. They have thickness of 0, and whenever it does the ribs, looks like it does. Okay, let's try like thickness of 2. Yeah, well, we'll try 3 for now. Okay, but instead of just V, we're going to do V, and then we're going to put a Y on either side of it for the DLC dry grass. So the DLC dry grass is going to cushion this gravel from the base terrain, if you will. Just like that. And then the elevation is going to be 0 on either side. Give that a try. Okay, let's give that a chance to work. So the idea here is that it'll spawn the gravel associated with elevation 2, and then it'll spawn dry grass on either side of it that's at elevation 0. In order to do this, the shape has to be a little bit thicker, so we've increased the thickness to 3.
Mm.
On terms of if you're looking at the mini map, you're not going to be able to see the dry grass because it'll place the dry grass, but it'll be blending in with the base terrain just fine. You're skeptical, BP.
Huh?
You
No,
sound
I was
skeptical.
I was agreeing with you. It may have cut my voice off slightly.
Okay. All
Let's
right.
see how she do.
Hmm.
Uh-oh.
You know, that's not too bad when you think about it. Like we could clean it up, maybe. tweak it, adjust it. And it could be tough to clean up, actually. But this is successfully elevated.
Yeah, it is.
It's just not.
It's not gravel.
And because it's not, because it isn't gravel, we can't manipulate it with elevation techniques. We could try.
Otherwise, yeah, I don't even mind the fractured look to it. We would just change the elevated terrain to gravel if we can.
Let's try something. Let's just try polishing it up with terrains a little bit. So we'll create terrain gravel from base terrain dry grass. And number of clumps is going to be 9320. Let's do this. Set scale by groups. Doi Hung, this is random map scripting for you. Okay. Set scale by groups, height limits, and we'll do like 1 to 2, okay, or maybe 2 to 2. Let's try 2 to 2 first. So this is on only elevation 2. Now, if we did elevation 1 to 2, it would probably look thicker. Which I don't know if that's what you want, but let me show that to you as well.
Yeah, I think 1 to 2 would be fine. I mean, looking at the tiles, it looks like it goes higher, but that's probably just a trick of the eye.
Well, remember that we're still elevating some gravel.
Oh, yeah, true.
In the elevation section. So, come on. Uh-oh. Did I not save the file properly? There we go. Let me try suppressing this. Oh, look at that. You even got some little grasses showing up here. That's cute. Let me try, actually, suppressing this command for now. And let's try making this height difference a little bit more extreme. Here. Maybe let's set this equal to 3 and see if it tries to pull stuff up a little bit more. Sometimes it can take a little bit of tinkering with this thing. To get it to work right. Because it seemed like the bone size was correct. It's just a matter of how it was being elevated.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, hold on, I'm going to stop it here. So we could pull this up by 4 too, so that this is actually more powerful than these other ones. It's already supposed to be more powerful, but we'll make it even more powerful, this backbone. And we could actually do the same thing for the backbone too, actually. We could give it this padding. If we were worried about its elevation intruding on the town center. Okay, so it's crunching the numbers and it's going to think about it. Okay. Generate. So now we could rework that terrain on elevation like 2 to 3, because it's gonna struggle a little bit patching everything together. It's got a lot of lands to keep happy, if you will. So We can come back here and, well, we could do 3, 3 first. And we could basically clean up all of the dry grass that was at a certain height. Oh, right, we want 3 to 4, though. Because remember that the backbone is taller. And then we could actually elevate this gravel to 4 or 5. Actually, it should already be trying to elevate it to that height. Let's do 2 to 4. Let's see what happens. Okay, got a little bit of a bite taken out of it. And, you know, we could actually kind of go back and then create terrain dry grass out of gravel. And we could apply that to just height limit 2 if we really did not want to include that. We could actually alternate between these two commands for a while. Hey, Cesar, how's it going? Welcome. I'm just working on a map with BP called Fossil. Ah, dang. Well, hold on now. Am I looking at this right? I don't think I am. So we would create terrain. Let's just say DLC rock for now. Out of base terrain V, and instead of height limits, we would do spacing to other terrain types of like 1. I think that's what we want. And then we would go back and we would convert all gravel terrain, create terrain into dry grass. No space in other terrain types at all. And then from there we would go back and we would convert the DLC rock back into gravel. I think that's the play. Create terrain, gravel from DLC rock. DLC rock is the unbuildable stuff. Lots of buffering internet issues. Yes, really struggling with the stream today. Internet has been bad for the past couple of days for some unknown reason to get after the provider. Alright. So I don't know how much longer I'm going to stream with these complications, but BP and I are just working on this. Uh-oh. What did I do wrong? Let's not skip so many steps then. Oh, well, we've got 2 of these here. Let's suppress that. So we're creating DLC rock from gravel, spacing other terrain types of 1. And then we're going to turn the gravel that's left into dry grass. So let's make sure that the DLC rock spawns properly. I guess that's kind of the first step. Okay, so the DLC rock spawns correctly, as we would expect.
Yep.
And actually, we could even space in other terrain types of 1. Even make that 2. But I think 1 is the number that we want. It really depends on what you want, BP. And then the plan is we would go in and we would convert all of this gravel into dry grass, and then convert the rock back into gravel. So
You're
no,
saying to get the unbuildable border?
nope, different. This is just to thin up the gravel, so it's not so aggressive at you on the mini map. Yeah, I think we are going to make that space another train types of 1 here. We could do an unbuildable border too. Okay, and then the rock is then converted back into... Do you want the unbuildable border?
No, we don't have to mess with that right now.
Okay. So I just had a Y where I was supposed to have a V, so that's probably the reason why. Okay. So there you go. It's not perfect, but it does have the players nested in between the ribs here. And there is elevation next to the players too. We were able to achieve that. Out of curiosity, let's see how it looks on large. 2 players start. So large is going to look a lot cleaner, BP, in terms of the spacing between the ribs. Now, the other thing that we could do is we could actually just reduce the number of ribs for small if you want, because you're not going to have... the only way to have the space that you like this on a smaller size is basically to decrease the number of ribs.
Yeah, I
So,
think that may be what we have to do.
but it's really up to you. So in that case, we would have fewer ribs, so we would take this and copy this and move it down here somewhere for safekeeping. So we'll have maybe no rib 1 or rib 6. Well, let's go 1, 2, 3, and 4 ribs total. Could give that a try. I don't want to do just 2 ribs because then it's hard to tell exactly what it is, right? And these are the offsets for it. So we ran this just now. We've got spacing of 20 here. Let's try making it spacing of 30. So maybe minus 50, 20, and we can, it doesn't even necessarily have to be the same uniform spacing. Well, if we're going to go 25, 25, and plus 50, these lengths are going to be a little bit off, so we'll adjust that. But let's just run this here. Oh shoot, there is no rib 6. It's going to crash. It's going to be like, what's rib 6? What's rib 5 for that matter? Okay. In theory, it should run faster because there are only 4 ribs to think about. The spacing from the ribs has changed from 15 to 25. As if we messed something up somehow. Oh, right. It's because we need a spacing of 33 here. Silly me. Hey, Ronald Rage. Welcome. So maybe we'll go like minus 45 minus 22. Well, let's see. No. We'll go 32. That's what we'll do. So minus 16 to plus 16. And then minus 32. Actually, this gap is... We're going to need to add 32 to 16. So 48. There we go. So this difference should be 32 every single time. And that should be fine. We may not have to adjust let's see. Oh yeah, we will. We'll have to adjust the length of these ribs as well.
Yeah, I think the middle, left, and right could be a little closer together, but that does look better for a tiny map. It's kind of zoomed in instead of zoomed out, and we can progressively zoom it out for the larger maps, getting more ribs in there.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, Ronald Rage, welcome. Got terrible stream quality today. Don't know what's going on with the internet. Happens from time to time. Okay. Let's generate it. So, still a little bit knackered. What's going on with this? Could just be how it's fighting the adjacent stuff. Let me try adding one more thing. Because this right here is technically 4 things. So we will put another gravel in here toward the top. I think that could be some of the confusion it's experiencing. It's doing 0, 1, 2, and 3. But we only have a vector of length 3. So it's doing 4 things, but we only have a vector of length 3. So it's kind of getting stuff mixed around, and that's making everything look knackered. So let's see if we can improve upon that. How do these look for lengths, BP? Do you want the center ones to be a little bit longer? Do you want this one to be made shorter? It's already a little bit shorter, I think, but it looks closer now. These would have to be adjusted, which we can do.
Maybe the left center one be slightly longer. Otherwise, I think they're good.
Okay, we will do that then. So that is going to be rib 2, and we will bump that up to like 43 and 43 perhaps. Try running it this way. So Ronald Rage, are you planning on streaming today? All right. There we go. That's a little bit better. Still not perfect. I think this rib in the center could be made a little bit longer. All right.
I think that's a good size.
Oh, really?
It's still having those gaps, but otherwise, I think it looks fine.
The rib in the center you think is appropriately sized in length?
Yeah, that goes much longer than is like you can tell it's way bigger than the rest of them.
All right, I will decrease the length of this one to the right here, rib 3, slightly. Okay, so rib 3, decrease that to 33, I think. Maybe 34. And I'm wondering if there's anything that we can do here with the texturing quality. We can either, we might be able to make it higher elevation, more extreme elevation difference, but I am not so sure. Let BP decide what he wants to do for that. Seeing how it works. Could actually also try increasing the brush thickness to 2. Can make some more uniform patterns. Takes a little longer to run, but when the brush thickness is 2, it's a little bit more uniform. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know if that's going to be a good solution though, because our resolution is 1, right? We're doing one thing, and then we're doing 2 things at a time, and then we're doing one thing again. So if it increases the brush thickness to 2, it might paint with too broad of a stroke on the left and right hand sides. But we'll see.
Yeah, we can try that. See what it looks like.
Uh-oh. It did nothing at all. Did I not wait until it was finished writing? It's impossible. It's impossible. Seems like there's stuff there. That can't be. Does it have information stored for rib 1? Looks like it. Okay, so maybe what's happening is these are getting overpowered by whatever's happening at the edges. Okay, yeah, that's nice. So we'll decrease the brush thickness back to 1 again. And I'm just trying to think if we can somehow, trick it into prioritizing the points that are on top somehow. I think there's a good chance that we could. Let's try this. Let's increase each of these ribs into like almost 2 parts, if you will. In theory, each one should have its own stuff going on with it. But maybe if we just throw some more points at it, it'll work a little bit better. So in this case, we're just going to have the gravel. It's just going to be at elevation 3. And it's just going to have a thickness of 0. So we will copy this over. We'll copy all of this over. And we'll try repeating it. See if we can get that trick in. Okay, we're going to have to change these values to agree with whatever's up here. So we got minus 43, minus 43, and this is going minus 16. This is minus 34 to 34. And this is plus 16. And this is plus 48. And this is, the length is going to be minus 24 to 24. We'll see if we can kind of coax it with additional points into behaving. However, we might have done that wrong, though. This one should probably come first because it's... Well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll try it. We've got it all set up like that. Syntax error. Oh, we got an extra curly bracket in some of these. Here we go. Alright, then we need to have a semicolon here so it stacks them properly. Okay, now let's try it. Okay, scrambling commands. It's written to file. I think that looks a little bit better. Don't like the fact that it's got a byte taken out of it here and here. It's bizarre.
Yeah, otherwise it looks pretty clean.
Cleaner. Alright, let's... The thicknesses of these are at 0 right now. Let's give them thicknesses of... Oops. Oh! That's the backbone, not this one. And we did talk about the fact that we could put this first. So let's try that. Let's try this. Let's cut this and paste that here. I bet if we put this to the left-hand side, it would get prioritized, and therefore it would be more likely to appear, this higher elevation gravel. This is basically what Tech Chariot scripting looks like, by the way, in case you didn't already know. There's a lot of like, let's try tweaking this. See if this does the trick. Does Madlands have the capability of giving you terrains at different elevations? Does it put the lands down at different base elevations?
Um, I think there's something on here. Yeah, I can type it into attributes. It looks like he has like leftover stuff when I download it. But
Nice.
yeah, I mean it's just an Excel file that generates a bunch of stuff, and I get a preview graph of what it'll look like when I generate it. There's also a land randomizer that he has. I haven't messed with it though. I don't exactly know what it does. Oh, it's for exactly what we're trying to do. It looks like I've
Really?
never actually looked at this sheet. Land randomizer generate multiple configurations of players based off of player lands defined in the main sheet. Okay. Can only generate one configuration at a time. Huh.
Okay, let's run this.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a lot of other stuff to look at then. I've only messed with just like the basics on the generation.
Yeah, I've never used it. Thing with me is that I'm very good at making mistakes. So if I were copying and pasting something, I would screw it up somehow.
Yeah, and you have your own program that you've built too.
Well, yes, but Madlands is older than this. All right.
Yeah.
Aha. Well, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
So we could do a better job of elevating it too. I like that. Looks like we've got the solution. It's not elevating it fully though, which is strange. Should be.
You have balanced elevation on?
Oh yes, always. But it's still not balanced.